Hi, everybody. It's Jay, and I am back in the booth with you for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new release here on Say with Jay. Now, before I get into this week's new release, I wanted to just remind everybody about the new normal coming to Say with Jay, starting this Friday. We discussed it a couple of weeks ago, but very quickly to summarize, since Say with Jay started, our goal has been to provide you guys with a new audiobook every week. We've accomplished that by, on a given Friday, we would premiere a brand new audiobook that coincided with the book release of Jessie Gussman's latest sweet romance novel. Then on alternating Fridays, every other Friday, we would premiere a previously recorded, previously published audiobook that we just had not been able to bring to Say with Jay yet. Now, we're very proud of the fact that now we have the entire catalog of Jessie Gussman J. Dice audiobooks available for you to listen to here on Say with Jay, completely free, I might add. But that leaves us with a bit of a problem. What do we do now on those alternating Fridays? Unfortunately, there's not enough time in the day to produce a new audiobook every week for you guys. And that would also mean that Jessie would have to be writing a new book every week. Since those two things are kind of impossible for any length of time for sure, what we've decided to try is that starting this Friday, we're going to take Jessie's back catalog of books that she's published but that we have not had an opportunity to make audiobooks out of yet, and present those in episode form. This Friday will be episode 1 of a book from one of Jessie's most popular and most enduring series, The Baxter Boys. That's right, this Friday, our new release will be episode 1 of Second Chance with You. Now, before I talk about the story, I wanted to mention one other little thing that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago: channel memberships. They are now live. So, if you are interested in becoming a member of Say with Jay, you should see next to the subscribe button down below, which you've already hopefully hit, there should be a new button labeled Join. Click on that button and you can find out more about how you can support our channel and the perks that come along with that. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about episode 1 of Second Chance with You. It's the story of Ben Baxter. Ben is the oldest of the Baxter brothers, and he is a master mechanic and shop manager for the Coleman Trucking Company at their small terminal in Spruce Mountain, Maine. He's been there for quite some time because he has raised his younger twin sisters after their mother passed away. Ben has been hesitant to return home to Brickley Springs, Pennsylvania, for a number of reasons, the family dynamic being the major one. But Ben has been offered a promotion to move to the Coleman Company's home office and largest repair terminal there in Brickley Springs. Now, the story is also about Riley Coleman, who is the manager of the Spruce Mountain terminal there in Maine, and along with Ben, they've managed to make that the best performing terminal in the company. As the story opens, Riley's dad, the owner of the Coleman Trucking Company, is demanding that she go transfer to the Brickley Springs terminal because while it's the home office and the largest repair terminal they have, it is also the worst performing. And Riley is tasked by her father to move down there and turn it around, make it the best performing terminal. Riley figures out pretty quickly that the only way she can do that is if she manages to take her best mechanic and shop manager with her. That, of course, is Ben Baxter. To complicate matters even more, they have a painful past between them. And Ben simply doesn't want to go. He refuses her. But when a family crisis strikes, and Ben is really left with no choice but to return home, he decides to take the company up on their offer, as long as Riley agrees to some special terms. Can these two put aside their past pain and overcome a near impossible situation? Well, you know you're going to have to come back this Friday for episode 1 to find out. But for now, here is a preview of Second Chance with You, episode 1. Hope you like it, and then come back this Friday for the full release of episode 1 here on Say with Jay. Riley Coleman's phone buzzed. She kept her hands folded in her lap and didn't move. That terminal is sitting at the confluence of the Turnpike, I-80 and I-99, right in the middle of central Pennsylvania. We're perfectly positioned to be everywhere and go anywhere. Her dad's booming voice filled the corner office of Coleman Trucking and Repair Incorporated in Spruce Mountain, Maine. Her phone stopped buzzing. Riley didn't twitch. It should be our top-performing shop. It should be number 1 in the country. We have state-of-the-art computer systems and mechanics from the top schools anywhere. His face brightened like the red of her mother's old countertops. But it's not. It's the worst-performing diesel garage we own, the bottom in just about every measurable area. Their company had a trucking division and a repair division with a fleet of 200 trucks and 10 repair terminals scattered over the country. The location they were currently at was the original one. Her dad stood up, tall, as always, with a slightly larger waistline than when Riley had last seen him at Christmas time. It's not just because you're my daughter. It's because you've made this shop in Nowherestown, Maine, the best performing shop in the country. The job in Pennsylvania is yours by rights. Riley rose as well. Only his old office desk, ponderous and glowering, stood between them. I can do the job. Her voice sounded capable and bold, a direct contrast to the timorous skittering of her heart. Bold as brass. That's what you've always been. Her dad smiled, a pleased, I'm proud of my daughter smile, the kind she lived for. She gave him a cool, confident smile in return, the smile she'd perfected over the years of demanding confrontations when her father insisted on and expected almost superhuman effort from her. But everything she'd worked for was almost within reach. Make the shop in Pennsylvania successful, get the corner office, see her dad's approval. I need you down in Brickley Springs in 3 weeks, tops. I'll be there, she said, her confident tone covering her chaotic thoughts. Less than 21 days to wrap things up at the shop in Maine, move out of her apartment, and find somewhere to live. No problem, Dad. He nodded, pacing behind his desk. His boots made a soft clomp on the tile floor. Outside the large windows, the late Maine spring was just turning the grass at the edge of the big truck parking area a happy shade of green, a direct contrast to the dark paneling and neutral colors of what used to be his office. until 10 years ago when he expanded his company and moved with his family to Pennsylvania. Riley had grown up in Maine and had only left for college. She'd worked in the company all her life, working her way through college at the shop in Pennsylvania before coming back to Maine 6 years ago. She'd become the manager 4 years ago. The same time Ben Baxter had been made shop foreman. Riley's control slipped, and she pulled both lips between her teeth before she forced the tension out of her body and smoothed the features on her face. She wasn't going to think about Ben Baxter. Except, if she wanted the shop in Pennsylvania to be successful, she didn't have a choice. Not only would she have to think about him, she'd have to convince him to move to Brickley Springs. Ben Baxter set the last injector carefully on the plyboard and sawhorse makeshift table. He pulled the blue rag out of his back pocket and started wiping his hands, looking around at the almost deserted shop. "Hey, boss, I'm leaving." Fred Tomlin, his gray hair sticking out from under his ball cap in wispy strands, stopped beside the gutted Peterbilt Ben had been working on. "Thanks for staying and giving me a hand with that core." Ben shoved the rag back in his pocket. "You still have a meeting with the fancy lady?" Fred asked with a smirk. Riley Coleman wasn't hated around the shop. She was a fair manager and nice to look at, but with her business suits and perfectly shiny hair and nails, she would never be on their level, which made her an outsider. Ben never bothered defending her, not after what she'd done to him. "Yep." Ben wiped the last of his wrenches off and set it back neatly in the drawer with the rest of the set. "She should be here any minute." Fred paused in the act of raising his hat and rubbing his mostly bald head. "She's coming here?" he asked incredulously, hooking a finger in the pocket of his jeans. Most shops had a uniform policy. Ben had done away with it first thing when he'd become foreman. That wasn't the only change he made, but by the time the higher-ups realized what was going on, they couldn't argue with his improved output numbers. Riley couldn't argue. This wasn't their first meeting. "Said she was." Ben carefully wiped off his 3/4-inch socket. Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.